which sought to depose the Russian monarch. Those days, the monarchs were called Tsars, from office. And after he was convicted of this offense, he was sentenced to public execution by quartering. This is a method of execution, Mr. Speaker, that involved tying the four limbs to a horse, and the horse is being driven in different directions, or cutting the body in four pieces and exposing the bowels and whatnot. Pleas were made to Sir Nicholas, who was the monarch, that this was too macabre a method of execution, and even though the sentence could not be vacated, the king was implored to impose a more humane way of execution, and the king agreed that Kodraty Rayelev could be executed by hanging, which I think is the method in our laws for executing people. On the day of execution, and in those days, Mr. Speaker, executions were done in public stadiums, like Nyayo Stadium, full of people and spectators. So on the day of execution, this gentleman is led to the gallows, the crowds watching in the full stadium, and as he fell, you know, you're supposed to fall so that your neck breaks and you die, the rope broke, and Kodraty Rayelev fell to the ground, and after a few seconds of dizziness, he dusted himself and addressed the gathering, telling the crowd, you see, in Russia, they don't know how to do anything properly. They don't even know how to make a rope. We are submitting, Mr. Speaker and honorable senators, that by the governor persisting in the very series of misconduct that brought us here 1 year ago, the only change being the particulars, she's actually telling you that you see in Kenya, the Senate doesn't know how to do anything properly, not even how to impeach a rogue governor. Anyway, after this guy fell to the ground, in Russia then this was considered a message from the gods, that the gods did not intend the prisoner to be executed, and the king was allowed to grant a pardon if this type of miracle happened. So, a messenger was sent on horseback to the monarch in a large white horse to tell him about this miracle and request the monarch, as was the custom in Russia, to sign the pardon. And indeed, the monarch began drafting the pardon, and just as he was about to sign it, he asked the messenger, by the way, did Rayelev say anything when this miracle of breaking of the rope in a public hanging occurred? And of course, the messenger told the king, yes, he said in Russia, they don't know how to do anything, not even how to make a rope. And the monarch said, in that case, let us prove the contrary. The monarch tore the pardon and directed that the execution be repeated the following day, and this time the rope did not break, marking the end of the sad story of Kodraty Rayelev, a Russian poet, singer, military officer, and many other things. Why do we say this story, Mr. Speaker? We will be presenting evidence before you, and even as the charges were read, you heard several times the clerk saying this issue was alive in the previous proceedings. What happened? The governor, after the brief few weeks of camaraderie, adopted a defiant stance in which she held, and she has it even in her own evidence, several public rallies defiantly telling whoever can to listen, Kaende, Kaende, Kabati, Kabati. Kaende, Kaende, Mr. Speaker, is Sheng. It's Nairobi slang for I don't care. Whatever will be, I'll do what I do. In Swahili, they say, na liwe liwalo. That is the meaning of Kaende, Kaende. And we'll be showing you how, throughout the last 1 year, even after the graceful lessons from Senator Tobiko, I recall, from the other senators, the governor's mantra in persisting on this a series of misconduct is, I don't care, whatever will be, will be. Kyusera, Kyusera, Whatever will be, will be. She doesn't care about the consequences, the future, and whatnot. That is how, Mr. Speaker, we have come before you with a motion arranged under 7 thematic counts, setting out 39 specific forms of gross violations of the law and the Constitution, and which, in our humble submission, are conduct and becoming of any leader. Mr. Speaker, we expect, and it will happen, although I'm not a prophet, just like last time, the governor will appear on this podium taking the posture of an innocent and vulnerable victim of toxic masculinity, harmful patriarchy, gender stereotyping, political schemes. That's what our response tells you. It is back to "It Wasn't Me" by Shaggy. And the governor, if you want to confirm it, at page 2 of our response, she tells you this motion will not be here. It is a scheme by our deputy who is power hungry to take the governorship through the back door. She tells you it is the Jurin Cheke. She tells you if our own officials, our own secretary, our own chief of staff has done anything wrong, even the things she acknowledged, she said they bear their own responsibility. It wasn't me. In short, she will come to you looking as meek as a lamb. But luckily we have lived through the experience, Mr. Speaker. Our message to the Senate is if you acquit